Hey, Father Matthew, Free Talk Live Johnson again, continuing the conversation. I appreciate your lengthy and well-thought-out reply. I found your rationality and point-by-point method for creating a dialogue to be refreshing. I was very impressed with all the thought that went into what I had assumed was merely a private email until I found it posted on a blog by the name of Episcopalooza. If people would like to see that post, you can get to it by going to tinyurl.com/YOBEO2 or tinyurl.com/YWKWNW. Anyway, there's your free plug, Episcopalooza. I'm not actually offended by the fact that you posted your reply to me in a blog. By all means, please maximize the amount of attention and entertainment that our mutual readers and viewers can get out of every bit of this conversation. It's obvious that we are both interested in being entertainers and performers and should do so openly. That said, if it's not already obvious, I do want to answer your well-thought-out email, but I don't have the greatest of memories, so I'm going to use some notes. And now, to continue this conversation, when I was stating that agnosticism was a natural state of being, I meant for infants and for individuals. I have no doubt that a great many people would naturally make the decision to fill the void of unknown answers to difficult questions with a creator being or beings, or some other form of higher power. I'm sure some people would do that, and I'll explain more, but I first want to respond to the moral dilemma presented by the J word that I had trouble with and that you had trouble understanding me on. I thought his name was Jephthah, and it turns out I was talking about Jephthah. And I'm going to read the following, which is part of an excerpt from a book that is entitled What If God by Michael Capuzzo, which I found on a website. This book is sort of a question and answer session written for Christians and not strong agnostics like myself. At any rate, this is the post. One of the most heart-rending and perplexing stories in the Bible is the story of Jephthah and his daughter. Jephthah was the son of Gilead and a harlot. His brothers, sons of Gilead's wife, drove Jephthah out so as not to share their inheritance with him. Then Jephthah fled from his brothers and dwelt in the land of Tob, and worthless men banded together with Jephthah and went out raiding with him. Sometime after, the children of Ammon made war against Israel, and so the elders of Israel went to seek out Jephthah and convince him to come back and lead the army against the Ammonites. Jephthah accepted the offer and became the leader of the army. Now, before the confrontation between the two armies took place, Jephthah made the now infamous vow. If you will indeed deliver the people of Ammon into my hands, then it will be whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the people of Ammon shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering. God delivered Israel and gave them a great victory, and the people of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. This is all from Judges around 1133. Ecstatic Jephthah returned home with timbrel and dancing, but unfortunately the first one to welcome him home was his only child. Jephthah was devastated by what he saw and tore his clothes and said to his daughter, "Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low. You are among those who trouble me, for I have given my word to the Lord, and I cannot go back on it." While Jephthah's daughter reacted with a total spirit of submission, and she simply asked her father that she be allowed to wander on the mountains for 2 months to bewail her virginity. At the end of the 2 months, she returned to her father and carried out his vow with her, for which he had vowed. This is Judges 11:39. Now God watched the whole story, and this is no more quotes from the Bible, but quotes from the author. God watched the whole story and did not intervene. A totally perplexing decision. After all, he had not intervened with Abraham and Isaac? Is God not averse to human sacrifices? Did God not cleanse the land of Canaan and its inhabitants? Because in large part they passed their children through the fire. That is, that they sacrificed their children to the gods. How could that same God allow Jephthah to kill his own daughter? Well, let's go back to Jephthah's original mistake. Jephthah promised that he would sacrifice anything that would come out to welcome him upon his return, but that also included humans, most probably his own servants. Well, could it be that was the reason that God allowed him to go through his excruciating experience? Jephthah's callousness may have deserved a sobering consequence. His callousness and cruelty towards others ended up rebounding onto himself. Now, that was the author's sentiments, and he goes on to explain more about this, and why God possibly made a good decision there. However, I see it as an example of where I have a huge issue with calling a God such as this loving. We can see how this lesson applies to possibly teaching something to Jephthah, but what about his daughter? I understand the blatant sexism of the people at the time writing the Bible, but isn't the Bible supposed to be the divinely inspired words of God? I mean, where's God's love for Jephthah's daughter as she's about to be butchered by her quick and sloppy-tongued father? Now, you say in your reply that all teaching is indoctrination, and that religion is simply another method of passing on knowledge so that we don't have to start from square one. However, I would say that the major difference between, say, anything else based in fact and religion is in that religion is entirely based on opinion and hearsay. When it comes right down to it, the physical evidence for religion is missing. The usual reply to this is that one must have faith, and then one will see how rewarding it is basking in the glow of Jesus, and how rewarding that can be. Now, as I happen to be raised in the, albeit only for a very short time, and imagine the coincidence here, it must be God's plan, Episcopalian faith, and I've never felt the supposed glow of Jesus or any of this supposed warmth of God's love, the supernatural feeling. It would make sense to me to declare a case of Occam's razor, that the simplest explanation for what people are explaining that they are feeling is not some supernatural energy, but rather the love and acceptance of being part of a large group mentality. Now, this would also be the reason why people tend to accept major religions of their countries, because of indoctrination. If religion isn't gained through indoctrination, then can you answer why God wants all the people in non-Christian countries to burn in Hades? Why don't people who live in tribal societies, never exposed to civilization, ever spontaneously simply hear messages from God which educate them about the sacrifices of Jesus? In fact, I find that if there even exists that underlying threat that the religious occasionally use, foisting the myth of a lake of hellfire upon children, I find that insidious. I'm sure you've heard of Pascal's wager, where we are all told that you either accept Jesus and go to heaven, or risk not believing and, of course, risk going to hell. Well, that seems like an incredibly simple decision until you account for the fact that 2/3 of the world does not believe in Christianity. Many other religions, notably Muslims, have the same wager, and I'm sure there are definitely even divisions over who gets into heaven amongst the 18-plus sects of Christianity, and I know Episcopalian definitely isn't a major one. Now, organized religion it just divides humanity unnecessarily. So why the blasphemy challenge? Well, is it a message telling you, the religious, to back off? Certainly. But more so, it is a statement to the world that we so strongly do not believe the lies that are egregiously fed to children about hellfire and damnation, that we are willing to embrace them and prove that we are not afraid, and to encourage an end to this brutal tradition. Now, admittedly, the brutality of that, it's my personal opinion, and may or may not be shared amongst other agnostics and atheists, that telling children that they may burn for eternity is brutal. Well, that's debated. That opinion may or may not be shared. However, all that being said, I accept the intent of your empathy and your apology for past brutality of organized religion. However, as an agnostic who believes that no single religion, including atheism all the way over to Zoroastrianism, I cannot accept the face value of this apology due to the continued education and indoctrination by the various sects of any and every church in a manner that continues to be divisive of humanity in a way that will continue to result in wars and hatred for the foreseeable future. In what other context do we see people being slaughtered wholesale over unprovable concepts for which there exists no tangible proof other than religion? Even hatred that spawns from racial tensions has physically dividing characteristics. Organized religion does more harm than good, as it should be plainly obvious that one does not need religion to be moral, as many prominent atheists have already demonstrated. Now, if you could show me a non-religious society that has not replaced their faith in God with faith in big government and statist collectivism, then I can show you a very peaceful place. And I hope others join in this conversation and share their thoughts. We'll see if people are ready for it. Let's see how it goes.